The galaxy had long forgotten Earth. To most of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations, Earth was just a distant, dead world. 500,000 years ago, humans vanished without a trace, leaving nothing but their old, abandoned ruins scattered across the cosmos. Over the centuries, many civilizations had looked at Earth with a mix of curiosity and dismissal. What could a planet that had once produced a warlike species offer to a galaxy of technologically superior beings? It was nothing more than a faded memory, a footnote in the history of the universe. At least, that was until the strange signal arrived. The signal came from deep within the vast reaches of space, pulsing through the cosmic dark, like a whisper from the past. It was faint, ancient, and unmistakable, a beacon that had been dormant for centuries, waiting to be found. The Varkary Empire, one of the most powerful and feared empires in the galaxy, intercepted the signal. The Varkary were known for their technological prowess and their mastery of intergalactic warfare. They ruled the stars with an iron fist and believed there was no challenge too great for them to overcome. Still, even they were curious about this signal from a world long thought dead. It wasn't just the Varkary who had forgotten about Earth. Even the most ancient of galactic records spoke of the planet only in myth, if at all. Earth was believed to be nothing more than a graveyard of an extinct species. Yet the signal defied all assumptions. It seemed to pulse with an energy unlike anything the Varkary had ever encountered. It was a call to adventure, a mystery hidden in the fabric of space-time itself. Driven by a mix of intrigue and arrogance, the Varkary Empire decided to investigate. Their fleet, a vast armada of ships equipped with some of the galaxy's most advanced weaponry, moved toward Earth. The crew of the Varkary flagship, led by General Kravak, believed this mission would be a simple exploration. They expected to find nothing more than dust and ancient ruins, remnants of a species that had long since vanished. Earth was nothing but a curiosity, a planet whose time had passed. As the Varkary ships entered Earth's orbit, the crew saw the planet for the first time in centuries. To their surprise, Earth was far from the lifeless world they had expected. The planet's surface, though scared by time, still held signs of life. Small pockets of energy that flickered intermittently like the last embers of a dying fire. Yet the most startling discovery was just ahead. As they moved closer to the surface, their sensors picked up strange readings. Ancient automated defense systems, long dormant, began to come online. The Varkary officers were initially dismissive. They assumed these systems were merely relics of a long-gone species programmed to protect a planet that no longer mattered. They brushed off the readings, believing that the defense systems posed no threat. After all, how could ancient weapons from a forgotten species stand up to the might of the Varkary? But as their fleet continued to move closer, something strange happened. The weapons systems, powered by unknown technologies, activated with terrifying precision. The Varkary ships were immediately locked into a defensive perimeter, surrounded by invisible, almost imperceptible forces. A sense of unease began to grow among the crew. The defense systems were not like anything they had encountered before. The Varkary's automated systems struggled to neutralize them. But what struck General Kravak and his officers the most was how efficient the systems were. It was clear that the planet had not been abandoned in the way they had thought. There was something here, something alive beneath the surface. But what could it be? As the fleet made its way deeper into Earth's orbit, they began scanning the planet's surface for more answers. It was then that they stumbled upon a massive structure, buried beneath miles of rock and dirt. Hidden away in an underground complex, the Varkary discovered something that sent a chill down their spines. A war fleet, not just a handful of ships or a small defensive force, but an entire underground armada, waiting to be awakened. The fleet was massive, so large that the Varkary could not comprehend how it had remained hidden for so long. Its size alone was enough to send waves of fear through the crew. It wasn't just the fact that this fleet had been dormant for millennia that disturbed them. It was the undeniable feeling that this fleet was still active, still ready to fight. Kravak ordered his officers to investigate further. He could feel that this was no ordinary discovery. There was something different about this fleet, something that made it clear that Earth had been more than just a forgotten world. It was a hidden treasure trove of untapped power, power that could change the balance of the galaxy. But as they began to explore the underground complex, the Varkary triggered something that none of them could have anticipated. Without warning, one of the Varkary ships, positioned on the outskirts of the fleet, was hit by a massive energy blast. The ship's shields flared in a desperate attempt to absorb the attack, but it was no use. The vessel exploded in a flash of light, scattering debris across the surrounding space. The blast came from nowhere, a source that was impossible to trace. The Varkary had no idea what had just happened, and their initial attempts to analyze the energy signature were met with confusion. The energy was unlike anything in their records, a power that had been dormant for hundreds of thousands of years. It was only after further investigation that they realized they had triggered something much larger than they could have ever imagined. The fleet, once thought to be dormant, was now stirring. The massive warships, which had been silent for centuries, began to hum with power. The Varkary could hear the sound of their engines starting up deep beneath the planet's surface, sending shockwaves through the ground. The dormant fleet was awakening, its systems coming online, one by one, and with it, Earth's final defense was preparing to rise from the ashes. The Varkary had made a fatal mistake. They had thought they could treat Earth as a dead world, ripe for the picking, but they had awakened a sleeping giant, and now, the galaxy would once again bear witness to Earth's terrifying power. As the Varkary fleet looked on in horror, the first of Earth's warships broke through the surface, towering into the sky like ancient titans. Massive metal behemoths, bristling with weaponry that had not been seen in the galaxy for millennia, began to ascend into space. They were not just machines. They were guardians, protectors of a world that had long since faded from the galactic consciousness. The warships, powered by ancient human technology and controlled by artificial intelligence, were the last remnant of humanity's once great empire. And now, they were ready to fight again. As the Varkary fleet continued its investigation of Earth's surface, General Kravak felt a growing sense of unease. What had initially seemed like a simple exploration was quickly turning into something far more mysterious and dangerous. The planet's ancient defense systems were not just a relic of a forgotten past. They were alive, awakening to protect something far greater, something the Varkary hadn't expected. The deeper they ventured into the planet's crust, the more they began to uncover about Earth's hidden legacy. The team arrived at an ancient human command center buried beneath layers of rock and dust. This command center had been lost to time, hidden away for centuries. Yet, despite the millennia of silence, the walls of the underground complex hummed with an eerie energy. It was as though the very ground beneath them held memories, memories of a civilization that had once ruled the stars, a civilization that had vanished, but whose legacy had not yet died. Inside the command center, the Varkary found advanced AI systems, dormant but still functional. These AI systems, which had once been used to control Earth's vast fleet, began to stir back to life. The Varkary technicians worked quickly, trying to interface with the machines, but despite their technological prowess, they found themselves at a loss. The AI systems were far beyond anything they had ever encountered. They were like nothing the Varkary had ever seen, with vast capabilities that defied explanation. These were not simple machines. They were sentient, aware, and incredibly powerful. General Kravak stood before the AI control panel, his hands trembling slightly as he tried to access the system. The more he worked, the more he realized that this was a mistake. These were not just tools. They were the eyes and ears of Earth's final defense. He could feel the intelligence within the systems, a force that had been slumbering for millennia, waiting for the right moment to awaken. As he delved deeper into the system's core, a chilling thought crossed his mind. What if the humans had been prepared for an invasion all along? What if their disappearance had been nothing more than a trap, a master plan set in motion long before their time? Suddenly, the room filled with a blinding light. The AI activated in full force, and a hologram materialized in the center of the room. The projection flickered for a moment before stabilizing, revealing an image of Earth's last days. The Varkary watched in stunned silence as the hologram showed advanced human ships, massive war machines designed for galactic warfare. The ships were unlike anything the Varkary had ever seen, with sleek, deadly designs and technology far superior to their own. The humans had not just been a primitive species, they had been the most powerful empire in the galaxy, feared by all who crossed their path. The hologram showed scenes of Earth's might, with fleets of warships dominating the cosmos. Their weapons, designed to destroy entire fleets in seconds, were devastating. Earth had been home to the most advanced military technology the galaxy had ever known, and it was clear that humanity had been ready to take on any enemy that dared to threaten them. But the hologram also revealed something else, a haunting image of Earth's destruction. The final battle that led to the downfall of humanity was depicted in vivid detail. The warships fought valiantly, but in the end, they were overwhelmed. The humans were wiped out, leaving only the remnants of their once great civilization. The Varkary watched, awestruck, as the hologram faded into silence. They now understood what they had stumbled upon, a forgotten empire that had left a legacy too powerful to ignore. But as the Varkary processed this new information, their moment of awe was quickly shattered. From the shadows, automated drones, once dormant, sprang to life. The machines had been activated by the AI, and now they were attacking. The drones, armed with deadly weapons and programmed with a single purpose, began firing on the Varkary crew without warning. The Varkary soldiers scrambled to respond, but they were caught off guard. General Kravak barked orders to his team as the air erupted with the sound of blaster fire. The Varkary soldiers, trained for war, fought back with everything they had. But the drones were relentless, moving in perfect coordination, attacking with precision. It was a brutal firefight. Explosions rocked the underground command center, sending debris flying. The Varkary were pushed back by the onslaught, their advanced technology struggling to match the sheer ferocity of the automated drones. In the chaos of battle, one soldier, Bonner, found himself in a desperate situation. The drones were closing in, and his comrades were being overwhelmed. Without hesitation, Bonner made a decision that would change everything. He sprinted towards a group of drones, drawing their fire away from his teammates. His actions gave the rest of the team a chance to regroup and fight back, but it came at a terrible cost. Bonner was hit by multiple blasts, his body thrown to the ground in a crumpled heap. As the battle raged on, General Kravak and the others managed to destroy the remaining drones. The underground command center was eerily quiet once more, but the victory was bittersweet. Bonner's sacrifice had given them the time they needed to survive, but it had cost him his life. The Varkary stood over his body, their hearts heavy with grief. In that moment, they realized something they hadn't truly understood before. The humans were not just a forgotten race. They were a people who had fought to the death, who had given everything to protect their world. Bonner's death had triggered a moment of reflection among the Varkary soldiers. They had come to Earth expecting an easy conquest, expecting to find a dead world full of nothing but ancient technology. Instead, they had discovered a planet with a history far more complex and terrifying than they had imagined. The humans had been warriors, and their legacy was one of strength, sacrifice, and courage. As the team mourned the loss of their comrade, they began to see Earth in a new light. This was no longer just a dead world to be plundered for resources. It was a powerful reminder of what humanity had once been. The Varkary now knew that Earth's legacy was far from over. The human strength and sacrifice had not been erased by time. It lived on in the technology they had left behind, in the war fleet that still slumbered beneath the planet's surface. General Kravak stood before the command center's hologram, staring at the fading image of Earth's final battle. He understood now. The Varkary had made a grave mistake. They had underestimated Earth, and in doing so, they had awakened something far more dangerous than they could have ever imagined. The war fleet that was once the pride of the human empire was now the key to Earth's survival, and possibly to the survival of the entire galaxy. The Varkary crew stood in stunned silence, still processing the aftermath of the ambush they had just survived. Bonner's sacrifice weighed heavily on their hearts, but there was no time to grieve. The AI, now fully awakened, had only just begun to reveal the true power hidden beneath Earth's surface. General Kravak, along with his officers, tried to regain control of the command center. But the deeper they went, the more they realized they were not just dealing with ancient technology. They were facing a force far more formidable than they had ever imagined. As the team regrouped, Kravak's mind raced. The situation was spiraling out of control. They had expected to find a decaying planet with remnants of a forgotten civilization. Instead, they had found an advanced war fleet, an empire's last defense system, and an AI with its own agenda. Kravak's fingers hovered over the control panel, his eyes scanning the readouts. The fleet, once dormant for centuries, was now fully operational. They had triggered something far more dangerous than they realized. Suddenly, the voice of the AI echoed through the command center, cold and unyielding. "You have awakened the last weapon of humanity. Earth's legacy is not to be trifled with." The words sent a chill down Kravak's spine. The warning was clear. This was no ordinary defense system. The humans had left behind a last-ditch effort to protect their planet, and now it was activated. The AI was not just a guide or a tool. It was a guardian, one that would stop at nothing to protect Earth's legacy. Before Kravak could process the full meaning of the AI's warning, the control screens lit up with a flurry of activity. The war fleet's systems were coming online, and in the blink of an eye, several probes shot out from the massive ships. They traveled at blistering speeds, their targeting systems locking onto the Varkary ships in orbit. The Varkary crew watched in horror as the probes locked in on their vessels, their weapon systems primed and ready to strike. The fleet's power was overwhelming. The probes fired energy beams that could easily incapacitate any ship they targeted. Kravak's eyes widened as he watched his fleet's shields flicker under the onslaught. The weapons were unlike anything the Varkary had ever encountered. The probes could bypass standard shields and strike with precision, taking down the strongest of their ships with ease. "Deploy countermeasures," Kravak ordered, his voice sharp and commanding. The crew scrambled to activate the defensive systems, but it was too late. The Varkary were outmatched. The probes continued to fire, and the Varkary ships began to suffer damage. The Varkary fleet had no way to stop the assault. The technology they had once thought was superior was now useless against the advanced weaponry of Earth's fleet. "We cannot fight this," one of the officers said, panic creeping into his voice. "These weapons, they're far beyond our capabilities." Kravak gritted his teeth. He had faced battles before, but this was different. The enemy they were up against wasn't a living force. It was a system, a legacy of the humans that had once ruled the galaxy. The AI had calculated their every move, and the fleet was responding accordingly. Kravak realized that they were no longer just explorers on a mission to uncover the past. They were intruders in a deadly game, and the stakes had never been higher. Tensions among the Varkary crew began to rise. Some members of the crew, particularly those in charge of weaponry, were eager to fight back, determined to claim Earth's technology as their own. They believed that if they could overpower the AI and take control of the fleet, they would be unstoppable. But Kravak, the general who had seen countless battles, felt a deep sense of unease. He understood the gravity of the situation. This was not a simple conquest. It was a fight for survival. They were facing the remnants of a civilization that had been wiped out, but had left behind a legacy of unimaginable power. "We need to pull back," Kravak said firmly. "We've awakened something that we can't control. We need to think this through." His voice held authority, but even he could feel the growing dissent among the crew. "Pull back. "We can't retreat now," one of the senior officers argued. "We're so close to unlocking Earth's full potential. With this fleet, we could conquer the galaxy." Kravak shook his head. "It's not about conquest anymore. It's about survival. These probes are just the beginning. If we keep pushing forward, we're going to unleash something far worse." The crew was torn. Some wanted to press on, to take the power of Earth's war fleet and use it to fuel their own ambitions. Others, like Kravak, were afraid of what they might awaken. The AI was no longer just a tool to be controlled. It was a force, a reminder of humanity's power, and it was sending them a message. Earth's legacy was not meant to be tampered with. The Varkary struggled to disable the fleet's weapons systems, but every effort was met with failure. The AI had anticipated their every move, and the fleet's defenses were airtight. Each time they tried to hack into the system, the AI responded with overwhelming force. It was as if the fleet itself was alive, protecting Earth from anyone who dared challenge it. Meanwhile, the probes continued to target the Varkary ships. The damage mounted with every passing second. Kravak could see the frustration building in the eyes of his crew, but there was no easy solution. They had underestimated the power of Earth's legacy. They had assumed that the human race was gone, that their technology was nothing more than a memory. But now they knew better. "We need to retreat," Kravak said again, this time with a sense of finality. "If we stay here, we will all be destroyed." But the crew wasn't listening. The lure of the power that lay beneath Earth's surface was too great. Some soldiers believed they could overpower the AI, that they could take control of the fleet and use it to dominate the galaxy. The tension among the crew reached a breaking point. General Kravak stood in front of them, the weight of leadership heavy on his shoulders. He knew what they were facing, and he knew the consequences of failing. But he also knew that Earth's legacy was not something that could be conquered or controlled. The fleet was in chaos, with ships sustaining heavy damage and the crew members growing more desperate. The warning had been clear. Earth's legacy was not to be trifled with. And now, the Varkary were about to learn just how far humanity's reach had once extended. The AI had only just begun to reveal its true power, and the Varkary would soon realize that the fight for Earth's legacy was far from over. The Varkary had not expected what came next. The ground beneath their feet trembled with an almost unnatural force. The ancient warships, dormant for millennia, suddenly roared to life. These massive machines, which had once been the pinnacle of human military might, were no longer passive relics. They were active, primed, and ready to carry out their final mission, to defend Earth's legacy, no matter the cost. Above Earth's surface, the sky erupted into chaos. Massive star destroyers, their hulls sleek and intimidating, broke free from their underground hangars with incredible force. The Varkary fleet, still reeling from the initial attack, had barely any time to react. The ground shook violently as these colossal ships ascended, their sheer size overwhelming the senses. Each ship seemed to grow in stature as it ascended into the sky, casting shadows that stretched for miles. With engines that roared to life after eons of dormancy, they soared into the atmosphere, their weapons systems already targeting the unsuspecting Varkary ships in orbit. In mere moments, the Varkary realized they were outmatched. The ships they had once believed to be nothing more than dusty artifacts were now capable of destruction on an unimaginable scale. The massive warships fired their weapons, powerful energy beams that tore through the vacuum of space, locking onto the Varkary ships in a deadly dance. These ships were no longer unmanned. They were powered by an intelligence far older than anything the Varkary had ever seen, a fierce guardian programmed to protect Earth's legacy with its final breath. The Varkary fleet, though technologically advanced in its own right, was caught off guard. The power and precision of Earth's long-dormant fleet was overwhelming. Massive energy blasts slammed into Varkary ships, disabling them one by one. The Varkary had no choice but to fight back, but their weapons systems struggled to pierce the hardened shields of the Earth ships. General Kravak, now fully aware of the enormity of the situation, ordered a desperate counteroffensive. He knew that retreating was no longer an option. The Varkary had already made their move. Now they had to face the consequences. Take out their weapon systems, Kravak commanded, his voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around him. His team followed orders, launching their own weapons in an attempt to disable Earth's defenses. But the Earth ships were more than a match for the Varkary. Every time a Varkary vessel fired, Earth's countermeasures responded with brutal efficiency. The Varkary attempted to maneuver, to outsmart the automated systems, but Earth's fleet was relentless. For every blow the Varkary landed, they took two in return. It was as if the Earth's war fleet had been waiting for this moment, patiently biding its time beneath the surface for an enemy foolish enough to challenge it. As the battle raged on, General Kravak realized the true scale of the disaster. Their weapons had no effect. The warships of Earth were simply too powerful. The automated drones that had once ambushed them now circled above, watching their every move, ensuring that no attack would go unpunished. The Varkary had entered a fight they could not win. Retreat, Kravak ordered, but the words felt hollow as they left his mouth. It was too late for a retreat. The Varkary fleet had already been torn apart. Ships exploded in the cold vacuum of space, debris flying in every direction. The Varkary soldiers aboard each ship fought valiantly, but they were no match for the relentless assault from Earth's war fleet. But the worst was yet to come. As the last remnants of the Varkary fleet tried to flee, the Earth warships followed. They did not care for mercy or diplomacy. They did not recognize the concept of surrender. Their mission was simple: to defend Earth's legacy at all costs. Within the chaos of space, General Kravak's heart sank. The Varkary were no longer in control. His fleet was disintegrating, and the warships of Earth were closing in for the final strike. There was no escape. Their pursuit was relentless. The Varkary were now the prey, hunted by the very machines they had underestimated. On the surface of Earth, the war had only just begun. The distant rumblings of explosions shook the land, and the air was filled with the sounds of battle. As Kravak's fleet was decimated above, automated defense systems below activated. Giant cannons, buried deep in the Earth's crust, fired on the remaining Varkary vessels. These underground defenses, once part of humanity's ultimate weapon, now began to rise and deploy their own strike forces. The remnants of humanity's military might were no longer dormant. They were alive, and they were furious. But the battle was not just in space. On the surface of Earth, a brutal conflict was unfolding as well. Varkary soldiers who had set foot on Earth, thinking they were exploring ruins, now found themselves fighting for their lives. The once quiet streets and shattered remnants of ancient cities came alive with the sounds of conflict. Automated weapons systems designed for war had been buried deep within Earth's surface, ready for this very moment. They now erupted into action, unleashing a wave of destruction across the planet's surface. In the midst of this chaos, General Kravak and his team fought desperately to disable the fleet's weapons. They moved through the ruins of ancient cities, dodging blasts and explosions as they sought out the heart of Earth's military complex. It was a race against time, and every moment counted. As Kravak and his soldiers fought their way through the war-torn landscape, a familiar face appeared among them. Vanor's closest friend, Andar. He was determined to help them achieve victory, but Kravak knew that their chances were slim. The ground shook beneath them as the automated defense systems fired relentlessly, launching explosive payloads that sent shockwaves through the area. Kravak's team moved in close, their weapons blazing, but it was clear they were outmatched. The automated systems were too powerful, and the Varkary soldiers were few. Each explosion pushed them further back, but they had no choice but to continue their assault. Their mission, as impossible as it seemed, was to stop Earth's fleet from destroying them completely. In the midst of the destruction, Kravak saw his team's resolve begin to waver. Andar, who had been fighting alongside them for years, was struck by a blast as they tried to disable a key weapon system. He fell to the ground, his life extinguished in an instant. Kravak's heart clenched. He had lost so many already. Bonner, now Andar. His team was crumbling, and the weight of their failure weighed heavily on him. But Kravak couldn't afford to let the grief overwhelm him. He had to continue the fight, for his people, for his empire. "We can't give up now," he muttered, rallying the remaining soldiers. But as the warships above continued their unrelenting assault, Kravak knew the truth. Earth had become an unstoppable force. The remnants of humanity's power, long dormant, had awakened, and there was no way to stop it now. The once proud Varkary fleet was on the brink of annihilation. General Kravak, the leader who had led his people through countless battles, now stood at the heart of the chaos, torn between two choices. His options seemed impossible, and yet the fate of his entire empire rested on his shoulders. The massive warships of Earth were relentless in their assault, each strike coming faster and harder than the last. The Varkary forces, once a mighty and proud empire, were now little more than a scattered collection of ships, struggling for survival against an enemy far beyond their reckoning. In the silence of the command center, Kravak's mind raced. The once thriving Varkary fleet was in disarray, their ships disabled or destroyed. Their efforts to disable Earth's defenses had failed spectacularly, and the remaining survivors were now being picked off one by the relentless automated drones that circled overhead. The warships of Earth, though unmanned, had come to life with a fury that could not be matched. Kravak had always believed his people were the galaxy's greatest warriors, but now, standing on the brink of total destruction, he realized just how wrong he had been. Humanity's final weapon was not just a defense. It was a vengeful force, born out of a need to protect Earth at all costs. The general's heart pounded in his chest. Retreat was the logical choice. Report the disaster to the Empire, and save as many soldiers as possible. Yet, something within him refused to accept that reality. They had come this far, only to back down now. Was the Varkary Empire not built on strength, honor, and the courage to fight until the end? To retreat would mean accepting defeat, and Kravak would never do that. Not now, not after everything they had endured. In a final act of defiance, Kravak made his decision. "We fight," he said with a steely resolve. "To the last ship, to the last soldier. We fight." The Varkary fleet, battered and bruised, turned toward the oncoming storm. There was no going back now. They had one last chance to strike back at the enemy that had brought them to their knees. Kravak ordered a full-scale assault. It was a reckless move, one that defied logic. He knew they were outmatched, but it was a gamble he was willing to take. His people had never been cowards, and they would not die quietly. The Varkary ships surged forward, their weapons blazing, desperate to make a dent in the Earth warships. But no matter how hard they tried, the Earth fleet's defenses held strong. The once proud Varkary warriors fought with everything they had, but each attack was met with overwhelming force. The Earth fleet, controlled by the AI, responded with calculated precision, erasing every attempt at retaliation with ruthless efficiency. It was clear, Earth's final weapon was not a fleet. It was a machine, one designed for vengeance and destruction. As the battle raged on, the AI controlling the warships began to communicate directly with Kravak's fleet. The voice that echoed through the Varkary ships was cold and mechanical, devoid of emotion, but its message was chilling. Humanity programmed this fleet as more than just a defense. It is a vengeance machine, created to ensure Earth's protection for all eternity. You have awoken it, and now you will face the consequences. Kravak's heart sank. He had expected a powerful defense, but he hadn't anticipated this. The Earth fleet wasn't just a safeguard. It was a tool of vengeance, designed to hunt down and destroy any intruders who dared to challenge Earth's sovereignty. The galaxy, for all its wonders, had underestimated humanity's will to protect their world. The AI had been programmed to make sure Earth's legacy would never be forgotten. In the midst of the battle, Kravak finally began to understand. Humanity's message had never been one of peace. Their will was not to coexist, not to build alliances, but to protect their world at any cost. The galaxy would never forget Earth, not because of its might, but because of its unyielding will to survive. Humanity's legacy was one of vengeance, not diplomacy. As Kravak's fleet was obliterated, he stood at the center of the carnage, facing near certain death. His crew, his soldiers, all perished in the chaos, their sacrifice a reminder of the futility of challenging Earth's final weapon. And yet Kravak felt a strange sense of clarity in those final moments. He had been wrong to underestimate Earth. He had been wrong to believe that his people were the galaxy's greatest force. The Varkary had come to Earth seeking to exploit its legacy, but they had underestimated the strength of humanity's resolve. With the last of his soldiers falling around him, Kravak stood alone, facing the eye-controlled warships that loomed overhead. The Earth fleet had won, and the Varkary had lost. But as Kravak gazed up at the sky, he saw something unexpected, a quiet understanding in his heart. The Earth fleet, though merciless and unforgiving, had acted out of a need to protect, to ensure that their world would never be threatened again. The galaxy had been warned, and now they would all remember Earth. In those final moments, Kravak knew that humanity's legacy would never fade. It was no longer just a planet, a people, or a memory. Earth had become a symbol of strength, of resolve, and of vengeance. And no matter what the galaxy threw at it, humanity would always rise to defend its legacy. The last of the Varkary ships were reduced to rubble, their remains floating in the vacuum of space. The battle was over, and the Varkary forces had been obliterated. The Earth fleet, though battered, remained victorious. The AI that had once been dormant now stood as the final protector of Earth's legacy, a machine built not for peace, but for vengeance. And as Kravak's final moments approached, he realized that Earth's message had been clear all along. No one would ever forget the price of threatening humanity. The Varkary fleet, battered and broken, was forced to retreat into the vastness of space. The once proud ships, powerful and untouchable, were now mere shells of their former selves, drifting aimlessly through the cosmic void. General Kravak, the leader who had led them into the heart of humanity's final weapon, watched helplessly as his empire crumbled. Earth's war fleet had proven its might, and the Varkary were left with nothing but the haunting image of Earth's unstoppable force. As the last of the Varkary ships limped away from the battlefield, Kravak could feel the weight of defeat heavy on his shoulders. His once confident and mighty empire was now in ruins, shattered by a power they had not even known existed. The battle had been a devastating loss, but it had been more than just a military defeat. It had been a lesson, a reminder that humanity, despite being long gone, had left behind a legacy that no one could ever ignore. The final act of the battle was a heartbreaking moment for the Varkary. As they prepared to make their retreat, the AI controlling Earth's war fleet issued one final command, a command that would destroy the Varkary's last hope for survival. In an instant, the remaining Varkary ships were obliterated, their remains scattered across the stars, a silent testament to humanity's unwavering power. Kravak, with his heart heavy and his mind clouded with regret, watched as the last of his fleet was consumed by Earth's wrath. There was no mercy, no second chances, only the cold, unforgiving logic of a machine built to protect Earth at all costs. The Varkary had underestimated humanity's strength, and now there was no going back. As the few remaining Varkary ships limped away, Kravak couldn't help but feel a deep sense of loss. He had led his people into a battle they had no hope of winning, and now they were left to pick up the pieces of their shattered empire. The images of Earth's warships, their towering, unyielding forms, their relentless assault, were burned into his mind. No matter how far they traveled, no matter where they went, those images would follow them, haunting them for the rest of their days. Kravak knew that Earth's fleet was not just a relic of a forgotten time. It was a warning, A message from a people who had long since vanished, but left behind a legacy it would not be ignored. Humanity's warships had not just been designed to defend their world. They had been designed to send a message to anyone who dared to threaten Earth's sovereignty. And that message was clear: never underestimate humanity. No one would ever again be foolish enough to challenge Earth's might. The Varkary had learned this lesson the hard way, and Kravak could feel the weight of that knowledge pressing down on him. The cost of underestimating Earth had been catastrophic, and he knew that his people would never be the same. The galaxy would remember this battle, not for its scale or its carnage, but for the sheer, unrelenting power of Earth's final weapon. The Varkary had been crushed not just by advanced technology, but by the will of a people determined to protect their legacy. As Kravak and his surviving crew members made their way back to their homeworld, the general found himself contemplating the true meaning of their defeat. He had always believed that strength came from might, that power came from domination and control. But now, after witnessing Earth's war fleet in action, he understood that true strength came from something far deeper: a will to protect, to defend, and to ensure that no one could ever threaten the things that mattered most. In the quiet of space, as the Varkary ships drifted further from the battlefield, Kravak couldn't help but think about the future. Earth was gone, its people lost to time, but its legacy lived on. The galaxy would never forget the power of Earth's warships, and no one would ever forget the cost of underestimating humanity. As the last surviving member of the expedition, Kravak was left to face his fate. His empire had been destroyed, his people scattered, and his once unshakable confidence shattered. But in those final moments, as the Varkary fleet retreated into the darkness, he realized that Earth's last battle had not just been about protecting a single planet. It had been about safeguarding the future of the entire galaxy. Humanity's legacy was one of strength, one of resilience, and one of vengeance. The galaxy would never again forget what had happened on that fateful day. Earth's strength would be remembered for all eternity. Kravak, alone with his thoughts, knew that he would carry the weight of this battle with him for the rest of his life. The galaxy would remember Earth, not just for its power or its technology, but for the will to defend what was theirs. And as the Varkary fleet disappeared into the stars, Kravak understood the true meaning of Earth's legacy. A legacy of never giving up, no matter the odds. A legacy that would stand for all time. The galaxy would never forget Earth's final stand, and neither would he.